Okay, so that's working. Brucey, how are you, mate? Great to see you, Brucey. Hello, Mary. Alex Berryman, how are you? Welcome, everyone. Hello, Sugar Honey, Aussie Welsh. G'day, crew. How you going? Thanks for tuning in. Brucey, nice to see you, mate. We're going to be doing a lot more morning streams from now on for all the great people in the States like yourself, and also in Europe and everything, and Mary's in the States, you know, Terry, Sugar Honey, everyone. How are you, crew? Our season has finally broken, so what I'm going to do... thank you, Alex. I really appreciate that. Aussie Welsh, how are you, bud? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a few different rigs and techniques, right? And we are going to be streaming probably Tuesday or Wednesday from a river down south. I'll give you the location once we get there. And Alex, I really appreciate that, mate. And what I want to do today is we'll give it 5 or 10 minutes, all right? Once everyone's come in, then we'll start just doing up the rigs, and I'll show you a really cheap and easy way to sort of get set up with it, if you know what I mean. Okay, so now the other thing is too, I apologise for the lack of content. What I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to do some form of like gaming content or something that I can just upload easily, because I just haven't had a lot of time with work and the weather. The weather's been terrible. Today's the first day that we've had a proper break in the weather, and we're having our traditional spring days that we normally have on the last day of October that previously we would have in September. Okay, so that's what that's about. Alrighty, so let me just get this done. So what we're going to do is, right, we're going to do this little stream on fishing techniques in the estuary, okay? And then what I'll do is after an hour or an hour and a half, however long it takes to go through it, I'll stop the stream, and then I'll get set up for some fly tying. So that way what we'll do is we can keep the streams separate, okay? And it allows us to basically have a reference for future streams, okay? And look, thanks for the support. We should be partnered on YouTube by about the 1st to 2nd week of November, allowing for the process to just take place, okay? And I really appreciate the fact that everyone's come across from the old platform, and I'm so glad I've left the old platform after the direction that that is going in. You know, I just still can't believe that I was on it sometimes, but there's good and bad in everything, isn't there? If I hadn't have been on there, I wouldn't have met all of you good people, right? And that's just the lay of the land, I guess. Now, Brucey, how is... in case there's a euphemism there, I hope your queen is doing well, and I hope all the kids are doing well, and I hope that you're all happy and healthy over there in the States. So look, I don't know, I know Aussie Welsh. Alex, are you from Australia as well, or are you from Europe? I can't remember. Are you from the east coast of Australia, or? Sydney, right, so you fish Sydney Harbour and you do all that sort of stuff. Okay. All right, so look, one thing that I've found increasingly frustrating over time... Oh, it is, Alex, it's the same here. I mean, Western Australia is meant to be one of the driest states in Australia, and the season has just been terrible. I mean, not terrible look, it is what it is. You can't control the weather, you've just got to work with it. But I mean, last year we were fishing for bream in September, and now we're going to have to wait till November. But the flip side to that is it's going to be a much better season all in all, just due to the fact of the volume of water that's in the rivers. And with the rivers and that sort of stuff, they do need to get cleaned out and like flushed out. So over lots and lots of hot summers, and then you've got all the runoff from the surrounding farming land and that sort of stuff, it can sort of increase nutrient levels and fertiliser levels in the rivers, and that's not good for the fishing and that sort of stuff. But in saying that, I mean, no one's ever going to put tourism above food production, which is just the lay of the land, you know. Okay, so look, what have we got in here? We got 6 people, great. Look, estuary fishing in Australia, for those of you, I think you call them inlets in Europe and America. So basically, where you've got a river that hits an ocean, right? 9 times out of 10, you'll have a little waterway where the river flows into and the ocean flows into, and you know, you've continually got fresh and salt. Hey Mo Freaker, how are you, mate? I left Twitch 3 months ago, mate. That's old news. So yeah, just didn't like the direction of the platform, so we're on YouTube and we'll be staying here. So yeah, welcome, mate. Now I don't remember your username on the old platform, but yeah, yeah, no more of that. It's all YouTube from now on. I'm just going to put some of these soft plastics down here. Right now, people, when you set up in the estuary, okay, you don't need to set up. You don't need to set up with expensive fishing gear. Okay, so one thing you can do too. Oh, Benedict, I remember you. No, I remember Benedict. How are you, mate? Benedict, I think you were in... Were you in Shookstream? Vaguely? Welcome, mate. Hope you're well. All right. So, Benedict. Mate, it's like anything, trying to remember 32,000 people, but, you know, my memory's not that bad. I don't drink during the day, so I'm pretty good like that. All right, fam. So, look, let's get started. 6 O's. Right. Great. There, excellent. All right, let me just bring this out. Welcome, Benedict. Good to see you in here, mate. Yeah, this is a totally different vibe to the old platform, mate. The best thing about this platform is it's free to watch and you can sub for free, so all good. Okay. Pretty good, mate. I prefer YouTube. I should never have started on the old platform, but like I said, Benedict, you know, what I'll do, mate, is a lot of people have been sending me emails about doing some old FIFA career modes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a career mode on Sutton United, okay? And I will start uploading daily. So I'd really appreciate it if you came in and watched it and told everyone about it and gave me some feedback on it, okay? Because I'll give you the trick to YouTube. If you're on YouTube, you need to post content at least once a day, and I haven't been doing that. But from now, with the momentum that we want to create, we're going to be doing a minimum of once a day, either live streaming or uploading, and it could be up to 2 times a day, okay? So Benedict, what I'll do is if I did a FIFA 22 career mode on Sutton United, would you be interested in watching that? I've got the chat down here on another phone. Oh, excuse me. Okay, so while oh yeah, mate, it had that effect. Okay, 10 people in here. Thank you very much for the support. Righto, people. Now, one thing that's very frustrating from someone that's been in the fishing trade and fishing for, you know, gotta feel old, over 4 decades. Right, there's a real overlap between freshwater fishing and estuary fishing, okay? So, the same tackle that you use to chase rainbow trout, brown trout and redfin perch, say in Western Australia, right? I mean, Murray cod, yellow belly, silver perch and that are a slightly different beast to compare to that. But here, okay, is the same gear. G'day Extreme, how are you, bud? Thanks for your support on Twitter. Extreme, I know whenever I tweet on Twitter, yours is usually the first like that's on there, mate, and I really appreciate the fact that you support us, okay? So the gear that you use for freshwater, right, you can just take and use for estuary fishing. So in the estuaries or the inlets, okay, well, Aussie Welsh, the older I get, the more I tell myself, the better I was, you know. But yeah, we won't want to get too excited. They say good decisions you make are knowledge, and they say bad decisions you make are experience. Either way, you're still going to stuff up along the way to learn, you know. So look, as you're well aware, right, I've got a couple of rods that I use in the bream fishing that I do in the Collie River on the private property. Now look, with fishing rods, they do come with different configurations, okay? So I fish 20-pound. Cal Scott, how are you, Callum? Welcome, mate. Good to see you. How's sunny Scotland doing, bud? You know what they say about Scotland? What is it? If December starts like a lamb, it ends like a lion, you know? Welcome, Cal Scott. Okay. So what I've got here is I've got the NLF 30 reels, and a big shout out to our channel sponsors, Millard Marine, Qualia Reels, and also Ride Microphones. Now, people, I'm going to be doing a lot of live streams, okay, and YouTube uploads on streaming, right? Because I was probably the least marketable person to ever get partnered on like Twitch at, you know, 48 or 49 years of age, whatever it was, okay? So look, these are just a couple of 5'6". This is a 2-piece, this is a 1-piece fishing rod. Okay, me personally, I prefer, no, 6-foot rods, not 5'6". That's the other rod. Yeah, so these are both 6 foot. Now, let me show you something here. What we've got here, even though we've got two fishing rods that sort of are the same, okay, these two rods have a different stiffness. So see this, right? So we've got the top rod there. Good to see it's consistent. Now see the top rod there, how it's stiffer than the bottom rod, okay? Both 6 foot long, one's a 1-piece, one's a 2-piece. One of these rod is actually a jigging rod that I use in freshwater and I use in the estuary fishing, okay? So usually estuary or estuarine means a combination of both salt and fresh. But I can use these two outfits for freshwater fishing, for rainbow trout, brown trout or redfin perch, or I can use them for bream fishing, okay? Now the rod that's slightly stiffer, I would use for soft plastics, for one reason mainly. When I go to set the hook in the soft plastic, right, I want it to set straight away. If you pull on the line like this rod will bend down to here before the hook sets. If you've got line through the rod here, right, that will bend to here before the hook sets. So that, you know, half a second in pressure to set the hook can make all the difference when you're using soft plastics, okay? Now, if you want to fish 4 kilo or under, and please remember, in all of my streams, the information that I give you is purely my views, right? And they're not to be like labelled or plastered onto anyone else, alrighty? So these are just my views that I've developed from experience over the years, okay? So when I'm fishing with bait though, right, and I'm wanting a slightly softer take and then to set the hook, I'll always use a rod with a medium fast action rather than a fast action like the other one. And this is a basic rig here. So what we have is we have one hook, okay? We have about, I would say, 50 centimetres or 20 inches of leader, which is fluorocarbon, all right? And then we have a running sinker down to a swivel. Now, me personally, a lot of people like to fish with a sinker sliding down to the hook. I like to give the analogy, if I was trying to eat a pizza and someone was trying to kick me in the face while I was doing it, I wouldn't find the pizza very tempting, would I? And you can overlap that with fishing, okay? The other thing is too, fluorocarbons. Hey Daz, how are you, mate? Fluorocarbon's one of the biggest inventions and sort of addition to fishing, you know, the last 20 years, along with braid and that sort of stuff. So the poor buggers don't stand a chance. Now, we'll start off with baits, okay? So the fish that we'll be chasing this week, right, are King George whiting and yellowfin whiting. Now, whiting are called silvers in America. Right, over here we have a King George whiting, which is a brown and mottled whiting, or silver as you call it in the States, that grows up to about 6 or 7 pound, and they are absolutely 5-star eating fish, okay? So, one thing that you learn as time progresses with fishing is that you learn that you don't really need to fish with as heavy a leader as what you do, okay? So, what I've got here is I've got some fluorocarbon, see that? And that's correct. If I'm fishing for whiting, right, I'll be fishing with 6 pound leader, okay? The reason why I'm doing that is whiting are a very spooky fish. The slightest movement or what have you, and you will scare them, right? And I have learnt over the years that with whiting especially, the lighter the line you fish, the more you will catch, and you'll actually catch bigger ones, okay? So it doesn't have to be an expensive exercise. The most expensive part of this exercise was when I went to buy a tackle box the other day, and I just about fell over with the price of the fishing tackle boxes. So I went into Bunnings, right, and I bought this, I think it's called Tactics, right, little tower. It was only about $20 odd, which was about a quarter of the price of something that I saw equivalent in a tackle store made by Plano. Now, no disrespect to Plano, these boxes, right? Hey there, Big Dog Hunter. How are you, mate? Welcome to the stream. How's the fishing going? So, I haven't been streaming for a while, mate. It's been a week. So these are not worm-proof. So basically, see these soft plastics? Right? Soft plastics have a material in them that will eat through plastic, or they will just absorb into the plastic. So the fishing tackle boxes are worm-proof, hence the extra price. But for hooks, lines, sinkers, and all that sort of stuff, these are just fine. You just got to make sure that you keep all your soft plastics, like this, for example. Got to keep all your soft plastics in the packet if you're going to put them in here, okay? So what I've done is I'm going to figure out how to mount this in the kayak or in the car. So what I did is I've just dedicated one of these little containers to whiting, right, or the estuary. So, okay, now, wow. Yeah, I thought what's the Australian record, Big Dog Hunter? Now, with whiting, a lot of people make the mistake of trying to complicate it too much, right? You don't need to spend a lot of gear if you're going to, money on a lot of gear if you're going to fish with bait, okay? Just keep it simple, right? So, with the sinkers that I use, right, I use 2 types of sinkers. We have the, they call them bass sinkers. So with the bass sinkers, these are the copies of the ones in the States. As you'll see, they have a swivel in them, right? And with the swivel, what it does, it removes all the line twist, okay? And then from there, we also have the, well, they call them egg sinkers. We call them bean sinkers and ball sinkers in Australia. It's got a little mixture of split shot. It's got a couple of the bigger ones there, okay? Now with these sinkers, okay, you use them with different rigs. So for example, one of the most popular rigs for whiting, okay, is to have a couple of dropper loops with beads on them and the whiting hooks, right? And then you have the sinker down the bottom. If you were going to fish with that, you would use a bass sinker, right? If you're going to fish with a single hook for bream, or you're going to fish with 4x4 gangs for flathead, you would use an egg sinker, and I'll show you how that works. Oh, well done. Good on you, mate. Awesome. 50 centimetres. You sure it wasn't a cod? Rightio. So, what you need to do too, the reason why we have all these different size sinkers, okay, is you need to match the size of the sinker to the conditions that you're fishing. So this sort of gear you wouldn't really use down at a beach because it'd be too light. Oh, yeah, matey, I hit you. But good on him, mate. At least he's been out there and doing it and catching fish. Right. So what I'm going to do, okay, I'm going to show you the different options with your fishing so you can decide yourself how you want to do it. Me personally, when I'm fishing for whiting, I avoid using too many swivels, because when you put metal in salt water, from what I've read, it gives off a little electromagnetic field. So if you've got the swivel really close to your hook, okay, apparently you can deter fish. Hey, Dr. Chemistry, how are you? Welcome, sir. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a very, very simple rig, okay? And what we're going to do, I find it easier if you prepare rigs and just put them in little sandwich bags like that, okay? And then you can put them in your fishing bag, alrighty? And look, wherever you are in the world, if you watch this stream, all you need to do is just change the hooks and the depths of your dropper loops and that, and use baits that are relevant to your area, okay? And you'll be able to go out and catch fish, okay? So, that's not good. Why is that there? Let me just get some of this. Now, this is only 6 pound trace, right? I mean, a 6 pound King George. I have seen them. Oh, nice one, mate. That was actually a joke, all right? I'm sure he knows what fish it was. So, right, so this is 6 pound fluorocarbon. Very, very light, okay? But that's all we really need. So, with knots, all right, welcome to Australia, the land of flies. If you ever come to Australia, as soon as you get off the plane or the boat, you get assigned about 1,000 flies and you keep them with you the whole time you're here. Right, now, I use the improved clinch knot. So what I'll do is I'll just bring this in here like this, a bit closer. Right, I don't use uni knots because I've had a few of them let go on me. All right, mainly in the heavier lines. So what we're going to do is we have the swivel, and it's a bit hard to see the 6 pound fluorocarbon. That's why it's fluorocarbon. So we're just going to put that through there, right? And we're going to make... Oh, nice one, Big Dog Hunter. So what we do here, okay, catfish, okay. Right, so what we do is we're going to put that through the eye of the swivel in this bass sinker like that. And usually what you do is you always hold your item that you're tying, whether it's a lure, a hook, a swivel or whatever, right, in your non-preferred hand. So then what we're going to do is, it's quite simple. This is an improved clinch knot. So I usually use a minimum of 7 turns. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, whoops, 7. Okay, and as you can see, it's all ravelled there. Then what you do is you've got this little gap here, right, between the swivel and where the knots start. You put that back through there. Then you reach through the loop, like so, and bring that back through here. Now remember, 6 pound line is very light. So you don't want to like really yank on the line because you can snap it. Right, so then what we'll do is we'll just bring that down here. So what we have is, with this knot, there's 2 ways you can tell if you've done the knot properly. Firstly, the knot locks in on the metal, right, and the actual tag end usually comes out perpendicular. Now with fluorocarbon, I've got a bad habit that I tie fluorocarbon as if it's normal life. I don't know, Big Dog Hunter, if you're catching fish, it works, doesn't it? There's no right or wrong with fishing, mate. Right, so we've got the sinker. Now, one thing, okay, is don't make your rigs too long. Most of your fish that you catch with whiting are in the bottom foot of water. Okay, so if you've got a big long rig, right, and you cast out, the top hook might stay out of the water. You don't want it to do that. Usually they forage on the bottom, okay? So what I'm going to do now is going to just measure about a foot or 30 centimetres. We're going to do what's called a dropper loop, right? I prefer to use dropper loops because it means that you don't need to use terminal tackle, and what that does is it keeps your expenses down and you have less chance of scaring your fish off. So a dropper loop's really simple. When you tie a dropper loop, you grab a length of line that is double the length of the dropper loop that you want to make. You want to make sure the dropper loop is not longer than the distance between the dropper loop and the sinker. Okay, so what you do is you go left hand to right hand and see how that goes over. Bring that through there, and then what we have the two lines on top of each other, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Bring that through there, and then what you do is you just gently, you've got to lubricate your fishing line whenever you tie knots with it, okay? You're welcome, mate. Probably not that good for the chicken, but anyway, that's life, isn't it? So what we've done here is, see how that is nowhere near the length of the distance between the knot, right, and the sinker. But you've got to remember, when you cast out, it's at an angle. So I'll show you this with the beads, okay? What'll happen is this will be sitting just above the bottom, which is exactly what you want it to do, okay? That's about 1 foot from there. And then what we've got to do is we're going to do 2 dropper loops, right? So we're going to have one here and one here. You want to make sure that when you do the 2 dropper loops, that the loops, okay, are not too long. Hey Mark, how are you, bud? Welcome to the stream, mate. Good to see you. And look, people, if you're new to the stream, please subscribe for free. Click on the like icon, all right, and tell everyone that we're streaming on YouTube now, okay? And what I'll do is I'll go through. We are back, aren't we? Good old Telstra, hey? Hey, Gavin, how are you, mate? It's unreal, isn't it? We're in Australia and we can't even get decent internet. Rightio. Port, how are you, mate? Welcome, buddy. Just call me Port. How are you, bud? Good to see you, mate. Don't forget to subscribe for free. All right, we're just doing some rigs on fishing. On like fishing rigs on oh, what's going on now? We're just doing some like rigs on how to catch whiting and fish the estuary and that sort of stuff, right? Is this working or not? I hope so. All right, now good old West Australian internet. So what we're going to do now is, okay, so what we're going to do is another dropper loop. So we're going to go left hand to right hand. 2, 3, 4. Ronnie, how are you, mate? Eight. Well, you guys must be so glad you're out of lockdown. Seriously. All right, so let's bring this back in through here. And of course, right, so what we have now is we have 2 beautiful dropper loops. All right, I'm just going to cut this up here, and then what we're going to do is we're going to connect this to a swivel, and that's basically our rig, okay? So, it is good to see everyone in there. So what I've got here is I've got about 1 foot, then a dropper loop, and then another one here with a dropper loop. So, you got to remember we're only using 6-pound line. So I'm just going to check, yeah, they're not going to touch, but we are going to use long shank hooks. I'll just have to be careful with the casting. All right, so the reason why a lot of people use long shank hooks when they fish for whiting is whiting have a very long head, and if they take the bait and they take it deep with a long shank hook, what you can do is you can still get in and take it out, but also you can use baits like worms and that sort of stuff, right? Don't be put off with that, because even though these worm hooks and that have a nice long shank hook, you can still use baits like pippies and prawns and other stuff, but don't make the mistake of trying to bait the whole hook. All you need to do is just put a very, very little amount of bait just on that bit where the hook is, okay? So, this is what we're going to do. When you fish for whiting, or silvers as we call them in Australia, a lot of people will use red beads, okay? And what that will do is, the theory behind it is it will attract the whiting, okay? So, what I'm going to do is this. And thank you for still sticking around, people, after that stream dropped out. At least it reconnected, I guess. All right, so Gavin, no, these are called. They're not. I think they were based on the Aberdeen hook, Gav. I'll just show you, right? These are bloodworm hooks by Mustard for the Australian market. So they are 90234 NPNR hooks. Okay, they're a size 8. 50 of them will cost you about $20. Okay, and they're just a, they don't have a perfect bend on them. So they have a long shank like that, right? But as you can see, the hook is actually offset to one side, all right? It's actually offset to one side. So what we're going to do now is we're just going to get a couple of beads. For Gamakatsu, yeah, I use Gamakatsu too, but I just stick with Mustad. I think they're, for me, it's just stick to the devil, you know. All right, so this is only 6 pound fluorocarbon, right? This is the other reason I'm using this fluorocarbon. So what I'm going to do is, yeah, that's right, Gab. Don't think I'm going to be able to do this. With whiting, you don't want to use too long a leader between your main line and your hook, because they can, when whiting bite, it's like a machine gun going off. So be waiting there, you got your finger on the line, it's like brrr, fish is gone, right? So what that does is, if you've got too long a leader, it puts too much stretch and too much distance between your hook and your main line, and you can actually lose a lot of fish like that, okay? Some people like to fish with really long leaders with whiting. I tried that years ago and ended up just going back to, you know, only about 4 to 6 inches. That's all you really need. If you're going to use swivels, you make it a bit longer on the beach and that sort of stuff. But when you're just using them with these sorts of rigs, right, what you do is you just keep it fairly close. So that's only about probably 12 to 15 centimetres from my main line, and if anything, that's probably a bit long as well. So what I've got here is I've got some red beads, right? We're just going to put this 6 pound line through the beads. I'm going to try and double it over. If I can't double it over, I'll show you another little trick. Get in there. Oh, the eyesight. Just going to pinch the end of the line. So what I've done here, right, is I've actually put the bead, I've put the bead over the loop that I formed, okay? So what we're going to do now is, now when you put your hook on with your dropper loop, you want to try and make it so that the hook point's staying up, not in like this, okay? So the way to do that, I'll show you the difference, right? If you go in from behind the hook and then you slip it over, right? And this is the good thing about dropper loops. With dropper loops, you can change your hooks like that. So just say you've got a big school of like King George that have come through, you change to your long shank hooks, cast your baits out, away you go. Suddenly you'll get some silver bream or some trevally that comes through. You can slip these hooks off, put some little short shank hooks on with like prawns and other stuff, cast them out again, okay? And it just gives you the option of being able to like change your like hooks and rigs to suit the conditions you're fishing, you know? Oops. It's a bit hard to work with this when you've got fingers like a gorilla, you know. All right, there we are. So if you bring this in from the bottom, see how that sits like that? Right, that's what you want it to do. And then the other thing is too, because you've got the little bit of plastic in there, it should actually float and keep the hook off the bottom like so. All right, so that's our first hook done. Now what we're going to do is just get the other hook. Right, so I've got this nice little dropper loop that I've done. Right, I can bring that back through like that. I'll get another hook. Okay. Bring that in through here. And what we're going to do is we're going to make up about 5 rigs today, put them in the little sandwich bags, and then we'll have them ready for when we head down to fish down at the river, okay? And I'm hoping that we'll get some nice whiting. King George are beautiful. I'll show you how to cook them on the bank of the river. So what we've got now, famo, is that's our first rig done, right? So we've got the bass sinker with the swivel in it. That'll remove all the twist, okay? And then what we have is we have our first dropper loop, okay, with the bead and the hook, and then we have our second dropper loop with the bead and the hook. So what'll happen is when they sit in the water, they'll sit like that. If we're using a light enough bait, what'll happen is the actual hook will go above the line, right? And then that way it just keeps it out of harm's way when you're fishing. Now the other thing we're going to do too is I'm just going to put a swivel on here, right? And then that way you've got your rig complete, right? And then you don't have to worry about going through and trying to finish it off. And as you can see, it's a pretty simple process. Don't get sucked in to spending massive dollars, right, on really expensive gear for whiting and bream. You don't need to do it, all right? Like the English say, if you look after the pennies, the pounds will look after themselves. Right, so I'm just going to tie this little rolling swivel on here. Okay, so that's our completed rig. So what we have in here, right, is we have our little bass sinker with the swivel in it down the bottom, so that takes out all the twist. We've got 2 lovely dropper loops there with the red bead on the hook, and then here we've got the swivel. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to grab myself one of these little sandwich bags, which one of your best rig holders out there, right? And when you do it and you put these in here, don't try and sort of move them around a bit too much. Don't wrap them in circles and then try and you know, cram them in. So what I've done there, see how I've kept the loops quite big, right? And because I've got the beads on there, I know that right, is my whiting rig, see? So what that means is your lines, hey Manzi, how are you, bud? Good to see you in here, more importantly, mate. So what we'll be doing is, see that? We've got one of our rigs in there. So what we'll do is we'll do a couple more, right? And then I'll show you how to do rigs for Australian salmon and trevally. I'll show you how to do rigs for bream, okay? And it's just a really easy way to do it. Now, with the sinkers, there are other variations of your sinkers too, okay? So these bean sinkers are more for bream, right? What these will do is these will, hey Loey, how are you, bud? Great to see you in here, Loey, all right? So these bean sinkers are more for bream. Now, if you have a look at this, right, this is called a pyramid sinker, okay? Now see how that doesn't have, thanks Ronnie, this doesn't have a swivel on it, and these slightly bigger ones, right, these 30-gram pyramid sinkers, see how they have the clip in the bottom, all right? So what you do is when you do your rigs up, you always do your rigs up for varying conditions, okay? So this one here is basically done up for normal conditions. Now see the size of this sinker, how it's bigger, right? this is the sort of sinker that you would use in windier conditions. So just say you go out fishing, you've got east-northeasterly winds in the morning, and usually in Western Australia, for example, we have a wind that's called the Fremantle Doctor. I can't remember the folklore associated with it. So what'll happen is it'll go from east to northeasterly, and then it'll change, and you have like southwesterlies or westerlies blowing into your face. So what you'll find is whenever you're casting to fish, you need to be able to cast to a spot to get them. With the wind blowing at you, that sinker might be a bit too light. So what you do is you take that off there, right? And you either put a new sinker on like that, so you can put a swivel on the bottom, but like I said, I don't like using too much terminal tackle. And then what you do is you go to a bigger like sinker. So what you'll find with even the same amount of wind resistance coming through, you put the sinker on there that's a bit bigger and a bit heavier, that extra weight will be able to get it out there, and you'll be able to fish the spot and still keep catching fish. See, you don't need to go out and spend a $700 on a super duper reel and rod that's, oh yeah, special action to get it out there. It's all about balancing your equipment, and it's all about keeping it simple so that you can know what you're doing, okay? So what we'll do is we'll grab another one of these bass sinkers, right? I'll just get this quickly. Now, with baits are also important, alrighty? Now, as I said to you, some people make the mistake of when they use these bloodworm hooks, right? You've got a really long shank on it. I'll show you, all right? You've got a really long shank on it, and you've got a very, very small hook at the end, see? Like that. See that? You only really need to bait. You only really need to bait that. You don't even need to worry about it. Some people will put it right up there. Red's the first colour that disappears in the water spectrum, okay? So once it drops down about, I think, 6 to 8 feet, it just disappears. That's why so many of your chemically sharpened hooks are reds. Right, so for example, pippies. Pippies are an absolutely awesome whiting bait. They do occur naturally in estuaries south of Augusta at Walpole. I think it's not the Hardy Inlet, I think the Hardy Inlet, but even in Albany and places like that. So when you bait pippies, pippies are a very soft bait, but whiting absolutely love them. All my big whiting that I got King George were always on pippies, where I walk through the stand flats, you feel them under your feet, you reach and you grab them. So with pippies, right, pippies attach to the shell with a muscle. That's the hardest part of the pippy. So what you do is, this very fine point of the hook, you've got 3 different parts to a pippy. You've got the muscle that attaches to the shell, right? And then you've got a little bit of a sort of fleshy area between the other fleshy area that sort of hangs out at the top of the opening of the shell. So with pippies, what you need to do is you need to always put your first part of the pippy, which is the muscle that joins it to the shell, because it is a, I think they're a univalve. I think they're a univalve. I can't remember. Then what you do is you put that through, and straight away you reach through, and then you put that between the muscle, or you can go through the muscle again if you want to. And then what you do is you always end up with the sort of thinner and wavier part of the flesh at this point of the hook, okay? But when you cast pippies, right, you don't want to cast them with a super strong or a super quick action. So what you do is you actually just flick the bait off the hook. That's why it's always better to use a rod with a slightly softer action. And when you do it, rather than snapping it over with the wrist, just try and use a round arm action with the fishing rod, so that way you don't actually snap that over, because usually that impact of you just turning your wrist over and the rod tip going whammo like that and coming back to its original position is enough to flick the pippy off, okay? So let's do another one, and then I'll show you another couple of variations. And the good thing about this is, fam, you know, if you're a family person, you know what I mean, get your wife and kids around, get them around the table, and even if they stuff it up, just make them all feel they belong, and you do things together, right? Do rigs together, and they'll pick up skills. They spend time as a family unit, and it's a good way to do things. And then that way you can get ready and get them all excited for when you go fishing and that sort of stuff, and it really brings families together, you know? Oh, turmeric. I discovered turmeric about 3 months ago. Awesome. So, what I've got here again, okay, is I've got some 6 pound. Now the biggest problem is, even though you're fishing for whiting, sometimes you'll get a really big fish that you don't expect to catch, like you'll hook into a bream or you'll hook into a big flathead, right? If that happens, you must be prepared to play the fish out very carefully. So if the fish is going off on a massive take and it just shoots off, you know, even if you've got 20 pound braid and you're using 6 pound leader, you've got to work it as if the 20 pound braid. Oh, well done, Gavin. That's awesome, mate. That's what it's about. It just brings everyone together, mate. You know, you need to. That's good. I'm really happy for you, mate. That's great, because a lot of people don't do that, you know. So well done, mate. Your kids are lucky to have you, Gav. So what we're going to do now is this. So see this bass sinker, how it's got the swivel in it already? Right, like I said, I just use the improved clinch knot, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Right, back through there, back through there. Lubricate it with a bit of saliva on the knot, because what happens is if you don't, okay, it'll cause friction, and friction causes heat. So the other thing that'll happen too is you'll hook into that fish of a lifetime, and because you yanked on the knot, you haven't lubricated, it'll have a weak point. As soon as the fish hits, bang, and trust me, I've learnt that the hard way. That's why I always recommend it, okay? So what we have now is we have that knot. Now I don't like using the uni knot. With this knot, you've got the tag end at the front of the knot, so the more you pull on the line, the tighter the knot goes. With a uni knot, the tag end comes out the back, right? So especially if you're fishing snaggy areas, it does have a propensity to let go, and I've had that happen in the boat when I had that beautiful gummy shark on there, remember? And the knot just unraveled when it rubbed its skin on it. So we've got about 25 to 30 centimetres or 10 to 12 inches between that sinker and there, right? Then what we do, remember when you do a dropper loop, right, you've got to do it so that it's the hands are twice the length of the actual dropper looper you want to end up with, okay? So right, so what we've done there is I've just lubricated that. Now see that, what I'm doing is I'm just going to pull on them gently, and what will happen is the knot comes out perpendicular to the line, okay? So that's only 6 pound line, so it's sort of curled up a bit, but once you put the bead on it and once you put the hook on it, it'll straighten out. So then what we do is we just give it about another 25 to 30 centimetres or 10 to 12 inches, okay? Okay, there we go. So we've got 2 dropper loops there. I've made one slightly longer than the other one, okay? I'm going to put another swivel here like we do to finish the rig off completely. Right, oops. So what I've got is, I've got some size 8 rolling swivels. I don't use the normal barrel swivels anymore. I've had a couple let go on me in recent times because everything's made to a price nowadays, not a standard, and I find the rolling swivels much stronger for their size. Right. Bring that back through here. Yeah, it's been an absolute pain with the weather, Famo. We had more rain this week, and next week it's really dropped off, so we've had a very, very late winter. We haven't even really had a spring. Today's more like a spring day, if you know what I mean. So right, bring that through there 7 times around, back through there, reach through. Okay, and away we go. So this is our second rig. Okay, I've got the sinker there, I've got 2 dropper loops, and I've got the little rolling swivel on the end. So now what we're going to do is we're going to get some more of these little 5mm beads for the whiting. Yeah, the theory is that it attracts the whiting in. Apparently they're visual feeders. And a lot of the old boys told me that over the years. They always put a little bit of red on their red beads on their rigs, just so they seem to catch more whiting. They thought that it brought it in, you know. So we've just got to get the line in through there, like so. So we're just going to push the line in through here. There we go. It's going to come out there. Going to grab another hook. Right. In you go. Try not to put a crease in the line. Come on, get in there. Nearly. I think I need glasses, people. Hang on, I'll try and do this without holding the bead. Okay. That's better. Once you get the point on there, it's easier to put through. And trust me, if you do your rigs before you go fishing, it's a lot easier than trying to do rigs when you get to the spot and you've got fish everywhere and you're trying to do this sort of stuff, you know. Hence, I always prep for whiting before, and that's better now. I can see. I thought I could see. I'll show you a variation on the dropper loops as well, Famo. Right, I'll show you a little variation that might make life a bit easier for you. Yes, it only took all day. And then what you do is you slide the hook through there. Whammo, whoops. Now, let me just show you something here too. When you put the hooks on the loop, notice how I've got the line that's grabbing around the hook shank. See that? See that there? See how the line's anchoring onto the hook shank? Don't bring your line over, right? And fold this onto your line, because what'll happen is, see that there? Don't do that, because what'll happen is that will basically crimp over on the line, okay, and it will make your line eventually snap, okay. So you want that just to cushion itself around the shank of the hook, and then that way it'll just keep a nice open loop and it won't have monofilament bedding back onto monofilament, okay. Right, so excuse me for a second. And always when you're live streaming, you drop everything. I'll pick that up later. Hey Chris, how you going? I decided to leave the platform, mate. And the channel is still thriving, buddy. It's just taking a different process, that's all. Twitch is not the be-all and end-all of streaming, mate. Okay, trust me on that. It's going to be a massive shift away from Twitch. So, Hey, bit better that time. Right. There we are, we got it. Okay, awesome. So now we've done our second rig, okay? Chris, the old platform is not the be-all and end-all of streaming, mate, okay? And let me give you a little bit of an insight into YouTube. I went back and did a comparison on views with the number of followers that I had, and the ratio on YouTube is far greater. So, yeah, I think a lot of the numbers on the old platform are doctored, mate. Right, there aren't that many people actually in there as what's being said, but anyway, that's how it goes. So, what we have now is we have another beautiful standard little rig, okay? And you can tell that, well, not so much that, Mike. It's just the platform itself, mate. It's not really conducive. If you want to be taken seriously, right, as a content creator, you go to YouTube, okay? And you look at some of the hypocrisy and that, but that's for another stream, and I'll get into that in a big way, mate. So look forward to that, because I'm going to give people the lowdown on how streaming works, and I'm going to give that to them from a person that's been partnered and knows a little bit on the inside, you know? And now that I'm not on there anymore as a partnered streamer, I can say that. So, all good. So, all right, so what we've got now is we've got, you know, we've got 2 rigs for standard conditions. Next time you're watching a stream, right, and it says, oh, there's, you know, like there's a streamer that's got something like 83,000 followers, and when they stream, they have 40 people in their chat. Those numbers don't add up, right? So there's an anomaly there, right? And like on YouTube, for example, hey Mesmus, how are you? Just rigs today, buddy, because what it is, the rain only really stopped yesterday. It's going to take 2 or 3 days for all the silt to get out of the rivers. When it cleans up on the Tuesday or the Wednesday, as soon as I find out, boom, we're straight down there like a rat up a drain pipe at the start of winter, mate, okay? So, yeah. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to do a rig for windier conditions, okay? Now, what you'll have here, see here, right? We've got these sinkers. Now, these aren't swivels, okay? These are, and there's a howling westerly that's blowing, mate. These aren't swivels, these are just little clips in your sinkers. So you have a little bit of a problem that's going to be associated with line twist when you do that, fam. So what you need to do, right, is before you do anything, whenever you've got a situation like that with the sinker, what you do, just get yourself a little interlock snap swivel like that. So with your snap swivels, right, always buy the ones that have, buy the ones that have the 2 little clips on them, not just one. These are much stronger, okay? And what you've got to do, right, is you got to get your crimping pliers. Okay, now you don't want to do this too tight because they're quite small, but see here, we've got that one there where my nail is that crimps down. So what you want to do is just want to crimp on that just lightly, okay? So what will happen with that is that's now actually crimped on there, so that sinker's not going to go anywhere, okay? So what we'll do now is this. It's basically just the same, right? And we'll do 4 rigs up. Hey, Big Bernie, how are you, bud? So here. Oops. Right, so what we've got is, we've got that little snap swivel. We've got to remember, what will happen is when that's in the water, right, the sinker will lay flat on the bottom, and then the swivel will hold up like that. and then when you retrieve your line, it'll lift up just by the shape of that. Okay, so yeah, the pyramid sinkers, some people call them channel sinkers, but anyway. So what we'll do now is we'll do another dropper loop. With my bottom dropper loop, I like to get that as close to Messmas. Pyramid sinkers are quite good for estuary fishing, right? In the beach and that, if you've got a really calm, flat day and you don't want to cast too far, pyramid sinkers are okay. But as a rule of thumb, if you're going to fish down the beach and you're going to use a pyramid sinker, you might as well just use a snapper sinker. Right, and what that does is that just allows you the option. So what's going to happen is when that's in the water at that angle, see where this hook is, it's going to be just off the bottom, which is where you'll find your whiting. Right. I'm really looking forward to going down south and chasing some whiting, famo. We're going to take the kayak out. Whoops, what are we doing here? And hopefully the flathead are in as well, because they normally come into spawn September, October. So we're going to be doing some fly fishing as well. That's a good rig, and they're not too close together, so the fish scare each other when they're going for the baits and that, okay? There we are, great. Pyramid sinkers are just a sinker that was actually invented in Europe. Some people call them pyramid sinkers, other people call them channel sinkers, you know, just different names. And a lot of fishing tackle in Australia is just rehashed tackle from overseas, because most of the markets are for America and Asia, okay? Back through here. Now, as you can see, hello Terry, it is. Right, so once again we've got a couple of dropper loops. Now I'll just show you how stretchy line is, okay? And this is an example of why you don't want too long a dropper loops for this, right? So, if I hold my sinker in the same spot with this hand, right, this is only about, probably about a, hey Ada, how are you, bud? This is only about a 1 metre or 3.3 foot long leader, but watch, see the difference? See how I can take that out of sight? That's how much stretch is in your fluorocarbon, right? Now, the braid has no stretch, the monofilament has all the stretch, okay? Lowie, we had a bad start to our day, Lowie. So, yeah, thankfully I changed my clothes and underwear a lot sooner than every 5 years, unlike my PUBG character there, Aiden. So, yeah. Although he's not wrong. Whiting. The weather is finally broken here, Ada. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to head down south for a couple of days, right? And we're going to go and fish a inlet and river down south. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be fishing for bream, okay, and we're also going to be fishing for whiting, but more so whiting. The whiting are lovely, and everybody knows that they're 5-star eating fish. And the good thing about YouTube is we'll do a live stream in an area that has reception, and when I move, when we move to an area that runs out of reception, I'll just record it and upload it when I get home, and that's a good thing about it. So what we're doing today is we're just doing these rigs and tying everything on there, right? And then once we've done that, okay, I'm going to show people a few other things and a few other different rigs. So this is basically what we've done is we've done one set of rigs for the calmer conditions, and now we're doing the other set of rigs for windier conditions. So what I've done is I've just got a little red bead on there. Okay, I'm just going to get the other bead on there, put the other hook on there, right? And then away we go. Right, so what we've done now is we've put a size 2 sinker on here. No, not really, Terry. It's still pretty cold. This is the weather that we once had in September. It's nearly November. So there we go. So what I've done is I've got some 6-pound fluorocarbon. Right, there's the little dropper loop, as you can see there on the forehead, right? It's got a bead down to the hook, and what we will be doing is we'll be using these to try and catch King George whiting and some beautiful yellowfin whiting in a beautiful river down south. Now, as I said, a lot of people make the mistake of when they wind their rigs up, right? What they try and do is they just scrunch it all up and whack it in the bag. Don't do that, right? So this is a standard sandwich bag that's about 18 centimetres by 17 centimetres. So sinker first, right? And just gently drop everything in there as it goes in. Keep the loops nice and open, right, like that. In they go, right, and then what will happen is you won't have line creasing on itself, and you won't have line trying to sort of bind in on itself, okay? Now, there we go. All right, so what we have there is we have two different rigs. We have the one with a 30-gram pyramid sinker and the other one with the bass or egg sinker, okay? So now what we do is we've got 3 rigs. I've never gone fishing where I'm going fishing and use more than 1 or 2 rigs, fam. Right, so this is all sorted. Try not to fold them over because it'll fold the line over. There we've just got beautiful long loops and away we go. Right, so with these bloodworm hooks, you can obviously use bloodworm, prawn, little bits of muley like we have done for bream and that sort of stuff. And the good thing about this is, right, now remember, a lot of people make the mistake of when they try and bait these hooks, right, they try and bait them right the way down the shank. Don't do that. You only need to bait that to there. See that there? That's the only part of the hook you need to bait. So if you're going to use prawn or fish baits or anything like that, just a little clump there, that's all you need to do. All right. So now what we're going to do is this. That's whiting taken care of. In the inlets and the rivers and that down south, one of the most popular baits is a little fish known as a white bait. Now the scientific phrase for it is sprat, okay? And the white bait are the white sprat and the blue baits are the blue sprats, okay? So that's the blue sardines. So what happened there? Why is that off? Oh, well done, diver. That's awesome, guys. I've just spent $22 on a spool of fluorocarbon, and it's unraveling off the spool. Yep, that's what they don't tell you. Can't believe that. Hang on. Is that coming back in or not? Because if it is, yeah, look at that. I've just spent $22 on a spool of this fluorocarbon, and it's just unraveled off the spool. Hey, Team Daiwa, well done, guys. Why would you do that? Why is that coming off the back of the spool? I'm going to throw that out. I can't be bothered with this. Right, I'll just get some normal. I won't buy fluorocarbon again after that. You know, there's easier ways to make money out of the public than just have a product that's going to unravel. Look at that. That just came off the back there. Waste of time. Well, at least we got 3 rigs out of it, eh? So that's what we've ended up with, people. Same old story, more interested in marketing than a functional product. Anyway, good luck. All right, fam, so this is what we're going to do. Right, I'm just going to go back to normal fishing line. Not putting up with that anymore. Yeah, don't waste your money on it, fam. Just use normal fishing line. It's the same stuff. All right, so here we go. Now, what I've got here is I've got some 7/7/6 DT Duriton hooks. These are the Tarpon hooks that were invented for mustard for the tarpon out of America, okay? One of the most popular baits we have down here is a little fish that's known as the white bait, as I've already said. Now, Western Australia, we use what's known as gangs, right? So basically a gang of hooks is just a line of hooks that are joined together at the eye, and these mustard tarpon hooks are the strongest hooks available to do that. So if you have a look at these Boone crimping pliers, see in the top here we've got like the top like 1 or 2 mil. That's all you need. So I'll show you how to do this, right? So you just get that in there where the eye is, right, and see how that's just opened the eye a little bit? See how that's opened the eye a little bit like that? Right, what you do is you get one of the tarpon hooks, you bring that in through here like that, you bring that in through there and see how they're joined, right? And then what you do is you close it up, right? So there we go, okay? So we've got 2 hooks joined. So now what you do is you just repeat the process. I must admit that with the mustard hooks, like all hooks, right, over the years, only in recent years have I had problems with hooks snapping. With all the old hooks, they were just tough as nails. But that's, anyway, that's modern day production for you, okay? So this is what's known as a gang of hooks. Okay, so I've just opened the eye up there on that hook just a little bit. I'm just using the top 1 or 2 mil of the crimping prise there, like that. Come on, get in there. Right, just got the very top of it. Has that come out or not? Come on, that's better. Right, bring that in through there. Now close that off. Right, so what we have, okay, is we have 4 hooks that are joined together, like so. All right, there you go. And what happens with these is when you bait these, you start off with that at the tail, that another step in, that another step in, and then you want this hook here to come out either through the eye of the bait fish or the area between the eye and the nose where that's the empty cavity, okay? When you fish these, you can either fish them with 2 white baits on a dropper loop like the whiting rig, all right? Or you can fish them with a single bait, and then what you do with that is you cast it out with a sinker sliding down to the swivel. Just before it hits the water, you grab your spool, it'll flick your bait out, the sinker will hit first, the bait will be behind it, just like a fish swimming down. Then what you do, just start retrieving, and you can virtually fish a white bait like a lure. Now, with your soft plastics, okay, I went into one of the local tackle stores the other day and bought 50 jig heads. With these jig heads, they are designed to fit on these soft plastics here. So when you fish an estuary, right, always try to go with as natural colours as possible. So this one here is, what's that? That's a watermelon, right, which is basically just speckled through olive, okay? Then we have the Prolor here. We have the pumpkin seed right there, okay? These are the Z-Man lures that are made in the USA, right? That one's called Midnight Oil. Now notice how they're mainly olives and browns and that sort of stuff. That's the bloodworm colour there, right? Now, for whiting and that sort of stuff, Halco is a very, very proud West Australian company that's been making lures for a long time. Notice how they have the red lures for the whiting. These are the soft plastics. You can also use this for redfin perch and other fish, okay? And on top of that, we also have the motor oil grub there. I've got one left. Now, if you're fishing for flathead and that sort of stuff, or you're fishing for herring and that sort of thing, herring and flathead are more visual feeders as well, okay? They also rely on scent. But see how we have these brightly coloured soft plastics? Brightly coloured soft plastics work, and also these little 5-gram metal slices, all right? So with those, you can cast those and retrieve those. You'll catch juvenile Australian salmon, you'll catch Australian herring, you'll catch the West Australian skippy, or trevally as we call it, right? And then that way, what it does, it just gives you more options. These ones you'd fish right along the bottom. Now with retrievals, okay, normally with soft plastics, when you cast them out, you retrieve them slow enough so the tail's vibrating, okay? You can add an odd bit of movement with jigging the rod tip or whatever. Just try it. Cast out a couple of times with really slow retrieves. That doesn't work. Fast retrieves, bump it across the bottom twice, retrieve, bump, bump, retrieve, or you can bump and wind techniques and that sort of stuff. Basically, there's no right or wrong with it. What you've got to do, okay, is you've just got to figure out what works best, okay, and work it out from there. So look, people, this was just a short stream today. I'm going to be back later with some fly tying. I might even do it tomorrow morning, all right? I just wanted to show you a few basic rigs, and sorry about the fluorocarbon, but that's rubbish, you know. You spend $20 on a spool of line, and then it unravels off the spool while it's got the cover on it. I don't get that. You know what I'm saying? It's just a total waste. And then when I tried to figure out where the tag end was to save it, right, the whole lot unraveled. Look, it's just not coming out. You know, if they wanted a donation that much, they should have just asked me for one. So now that's it, look. Nothing. All right, that's going in the bin, and I won't be buying that product again. All right, everyone, stay safe, stay well, be the best person you can be every day. And what I'll do is, when I'm sort of a bit limited to time, I might just do... You're welcome, Dr. Chemistry. Lowy, you can use surface poppers, but if you're on a jetty with a surface popper, what you've got to do is you've got to drop your rod tip right down. You've got to try and get your rod tip as close to the surface of the water as possible that you're fishing. Okay, yeah, you don't fish a surface popper with your rod tip up here, right? You just drop your rod tip down, get it right in the water column, retrieve it, it'll make as much. I have got some small surface poppers. I'll see if we can get some whiting on surface poppers as well. All right, bye for now.